Eat, Bumpy said, pushing the plate of ribs across the table, Small's Paradise. The restaurant was packed, but everyone knew what was happening at Table 7. The man sitting across from Bumpy was shaking so bad he could barely hold his fork. He was the one who told the Italians where Bumpy's cash houses were, who'd helped Genovese move into Harlem, who'd gotten rich while Bumpy counted days. In Alcatraz, I said, eat, Bumpy repeated. And this time his hand moved to his waistband because this is your last meal, Marcus smoothed hand. Ron had been running Harlem like he owned it for years. He held court at Small's Paradise, the crown jewel of black nightlife. Smooth sat at table 7 in the back corner, surrounded by his crew, drinking French cognac and eating the best ribs in New York City. He wore Italian suits, drove a midnight blue Cadillac Eldorado, had a penthouse apartment in Mount Morris Park with a view of Central Park. He had men on his payroll, policy banks running numbers across Harlem, and the Genovese family's blessing to operate as long as he paid his weekly tribute. Smooth had built all of this on the foundation Bumpy Johnson left behind, the connections, the infrastructure, the respect. He'd taken everything Bumpy created and claimed it as his own. And for years, while Bumpy rotted in Alcatraz, both had slept peacefully. That was the day Bumpy walked out of Alcatraz, carrying everything he owned in a paper bag. Older now, gray in his hair, but his eyes, those eyes still had that old, calculating stillness that made strong men nervous. Bumpy didn't go home when he arrived in New York, didn't embrace his wife, didn't stop to rest after the train ride. He went straight to Junie Bird's apartment. Junie was waiting, gray-haired, but loyal to his last breath. Give me names, Bumpy said, not even sitting down. Junie had a list ready. He'd spent years watching. Keeping track. He rattled off names. Men who'd gotten rich while Bumpy was locked away. Men who'd carved up his territory like he was never coming back. But one name made Bumpy's jaw tighten. Marzu S. Henderson. Smooth had been Bumpy's protege, a sharp young hustler that Bumpy had taken under his wing. Bumpy taught him the numbers game, showed him how to run policy banks, introduced him to the right people, protected him. When Bumpy got arrested for conspiracy, he trusted Smooth to hold things together, take care of the organization, send money for a time. Smooth did exactly that. Then the money stopped, the letters stopped, and according to Junie, Smooth had made a deal with Vito Genovese. He'd given up the locations of Bumpy's policy banks, told them which cops on Bumpy's payroll, revealed where the cash houses were, and in exchange, the Italians let Smooth keep a street for himself. Bumpy had spent years in Alcatraz thinking about that betrayal, planning what came next. Where does he eat? Bumpy asked. Small's Paradise. Junie said. He shows up like clockwork. Bumpy looked at his watch. Get me a table right next to his. Small's Paradise was filling up. The weekend crowd was arriving. Hustlers, musicians, working folks spending their paychecks on good food and cold beer. The jazz combo was warming up in the corner. Waiters moved between tables carrying trays of food. Bumpy Johnson walked in. He was wearing the same suit he'd worn on the train, a charcoal gray number that had seen better days. His shoes were scuffed. He carried no weapon that anyone could see. He looked like a ghost, like something from Harlem's past walking into its present. The restaurant didn't go silent, but conversation shifted. Yes tracked him as he moved through the crowd. Old-timers recognized him immediately. Younger hustlers who'd only heard the stories whispered to each other, "That's Bumpy Johnson. I thought he was dead." Men got out of Alcatraz. Bumpy walked straight to the table next to table 7. Junie Bird was already sitting there along with others. Old-timers who'd stayed loyal. Men who remembered what Harlem was like when Bumpy ran it. Bumpy sat down with his back to the wall, facing the entrance. Old habit. Never sit with your back to the door. Marcus Smooth Henderson walked by. And Smooth was dressed in a cream-colored suit with a burgundy tie, diamond rings on his fingers, gold watch. He had men with him, bodyguards. Smooth was laughing about something, holding court, acting. Gee, like he owned the place. He did own the place. Or at least he owned the protection that kept Small's Paradise operating. Smooth's crew headed for table 7. That's when Smooth saw Bumpy. He stopped. At mid-step, the blood drained from his face. His bodyguards noticed the change and followed his gaze. When they saw Bumpy Johnson sitting there, come a Sunday morning, their hands moved toward their waistbands. Bumpy didn't move, didn't react, just looked at Smooth with those cold, empty eyes. "Marcus," Bumpy said quietly, his voice carried across the restaurant, "come sit with me. Tea wasn't a request." Smooth's bodyguards tensed. One of them stepped forward. Junie Bird stood up. He looked harmless, but the automatic in his hand looked very serious. The man said, "Sit down." Junie said softly. Suddenly, guns were everywhere. Smooth's bodyguards had their hands inside their jackets. Junie had his gun. Others produced weapons. The restaurant froze. The jazz combo stopped. Waiters backed toward the kitchen. Customers dove under tables, but Bumpy Johnson didn't even blink. "Tell your boys to go home. Marcus," Bumpy said, "this conversation is between you and me." Smooth's mouth opened and closed like a fish. His hands were shaking. He looked at his bodyguards, looked at the guns, looked at Bumpy's calm, terrifying face. "Go," Smooth whispered. To his crew, the bodyguards backed toward the door, hands still on their weapons. They didn't want to leave, but they also didn't want to die in Small's Paradise. When they were gone, Bumpy gestured, read to the empty chair across from him. "Sit." Marcus Henderson sat. Bumpy signaled a waiter. The young man approached nervously. "Bring us a plate of ribs," Bumpy said, "the good ones, and 2 glasses of bourbon." The waiter practically ran to the kitchen. The restaurant was dead silent now. People frozen in place, watching like it was a stage. Even the kitchen staff had stopped. Everyone knew what was happening. Everyone knew this was history. The food arrived. The waiter set down a full plate of ribs, still steaming, glazed with sauce, 2 glasses of bourbon. Then he sap. Aired. Bumpy pushed the plate toward Smooth. "Eat," he said. Smooth stared at the ribs like they were poison. "I'm not hungry." "Bumpy, listen, I can explain." "Eat," Bumpy repeated, "because this is your last meal." That's when Smooth understood. This wasn't a negotiation. This wasn't a conversation. This was an execution with an audience. "Bumpy, please," Smooth's voice cracked. "I had to survive. You were gone. The Italians were taking everything. I made a deal to save the organization." "You made a deal to save yourself," Bumpy said quietly. "You gave them my policy banks, my call, Hector's, my roots. You told Genovese everything, and then you kept the money that should have gone to my wife." Tears were running down Smooth's face now. "I was going to make it right. I swear I was. Waiting for you to come home. I've been home. You didn't come see me. Didn't send word. Didn't send money to make up for years of nothing." Bumpy leaned forward. "You thought I was never calm. Hang back. Thought you'd gotten away with it. Please." "Bumpy, I'll give it all back. The money, the territory, everything." "I don't want it back from you," Bumpy said. "I'm taking it back from you." "There's a difference." Bumpy's hand moved to his waistband. But Bumpy didn't pull a gun. He pulled out a straight razor. The same razor he carried for years. The same one that had opened an enforcer from ear to ear. The same blade that had convinced Luciano to let Bumpy operate independently in Harlem. Bumpy unfolded the razor slowly. The steel caught the light. "You know what the Romans used due to traitors?" Bumpy asked conversationally. "They'd make them eat their last meal, then they execute them in public. Let everyone see what happens when you betray your emperor." Smooth W. as hyperventilating now, eyes locked on the razor. "I'm not a Roman emperor," Bumpy continued. But I am Harlem, and everyone in this restaurant needs to understand something. He raised his voice as, oh, every person in Small's Paradise could hear. When I went to Alcatraz, some of you forgot who built this, forgot whose streets these are, forgot that respect isn't something you take it as something you earn. He looked directly at Smooth. Marcus Henderson forgot. So now Marcus Henderson is going to help me remind everyone. Bumpy stood up. Smooth tried to bolt, but Junie was behind age. In a second, gun pressed against his spine. Stand up, Bumpy ordered. Smooth stood, legs shaking so badly he could barely support himself. Bumpy walked around the table until he was face to face with the man who betrayed him. Then, with the entire restaurant watching, Bumpy raised the razor to Smooth's throat. Not to kill, to mark. In one quick motion, Bumpy cut ATH in line across Smooth's left cheek, not deep, just enough to scar. Just enough to make sure every person in Harlem would know Marcus Henderson as the man who betrayed Bumpy Johnson. Smoothsker aimed, blood ran down his face, staining his cream-colored suit. That's so you remember, Bumpy said quietly. Every time you look in a mirror, you'll see that scar, and every person who sees you will know what you did. Bumpy folded the razor and put it back in his pocket. You've got hours to leave Harlem, Bumpy said. Take whatever you can carry, leave the rest. If I see you after tomorrow night, I won't be this generous. He turned to address the entire restaurant. The rest of you, Bumpy Johnson, is back. The rules are the same as they always were. Pay what you owe, keep your word, protect your people. Anyone who wants to test me, you know where to find me. Bumpy Johnson walked out of Small's Paradise. He left Marcus Henderson bleeding at table 7, left witnesses who would spread the story across Harlem by morning, by sunrise. Every hustler, policy banker, and street soldier in Harlem knew the king was back. Marcus Smooth Henderson was on a bus out of town. He never returned. That scar was his brand, a permanent reminder of what happens when you betray a king. Within hours, other men who carved up Bumpy's territory quietly disappeared from Harlem, not killed, just gone, relocated with a clear understanding, stay away. The Genovese family, who'd moved into Harlem while Bumpy was locked up, sent a captain to negotiate. The meeting lasted minutes. Bumpy's terms were simple. You've got time to pull out of Harlem. Everything north is mine again. Non-negotiable. The Italians left without arguing. They lost soldiers trying to hold Bumpy's old territory. The cost of fighting him was higher than the profit. Within months, every piece of Bumpy's empire was back under his control, not through war and OT, through bloodshed, through fear, respect, and calculated power. The night at Small's Paradise became Harlem legend. Old-timers still talk about it, about how Bumpy didn't need an army, didn't he need speeches. He walked into a restaurant, faced his betrayer, and with one razor and witnesses, reminded everyone who really ran Harlem. You can lock a man up, you can steal his money, take his territory, turn his people against him, but you can't take his throne, not if he's a real king. Bumpy Johnson proved something that night. Power isn't about who has the most guns. It's about who commands the most respect, and respect isn't given. It's earned through loyalty, intelligence, and the will to do what others won't when justice demands it. Marcus Henderson betrayed him for money. The Italians challenged him for territory. Every traitor thought Bumpy was finished. They all learned the same lesson. Bumpy Johnson doesn't make threats. He makes promises, and he keeps every single one. That's why they called him the Godfather of Harlem. If this story of loyalty, power, and straight justice moved you, hit that subscribe button, drop a like if you understand that real kings don't need crowns. They need respect. Share this with someone who knows that betrayal always comes with a price. What would you have done in Bumpy's position? Let me know in the comments below.